Okay, so today I'm going to be working on a necklace piece that I'm working for somebody. And I'm using this beautiful piece of rainbow moonstone. It's a jeweler's quality rainbow moonstone. And then I had ordered rainbow moonstone beads, but they weren't very pretty. So I found these Mystic Aura quartz beads. And so that's what I'm using. They're kind of a synthetic rainbow moonstone. And I just used my one-step looper tool to make this. But I wanted to show you all how I wrap stones and just let you all see my mistakes and everything. So plus I wanted to get some content back on this channel, and I wanted to get to where I post more, but I don't have time to edit, so this was the easiest way for me to do it. But I'm going to start out by measuring my stone, and then I like to roll it up and roll it down and then roll it up on its end. And then if I look here, it comes to almost 3 inches, and that kind of gives me a guide of how much wire I want to use. So I'm going to use about 10 inches of wire, and this is going to be a men's piece. And this is for a client that he orders pretty frequently, and I've done a lot of pieces for him, and I really enjoy doing these. So I'm going to use 21 gauge square by Parawire, and then also 21 gauge half round by Parawire. And then for the chain part, I use 18 gauge silver from Parawire. Parawire is my absolute favorite. So I'm going to start out by getting a nice length of this. I'm not sure how many pieces of wire I'm going to use. I know I'm going to need at least 4. And I already have a design in mind, so I'm going to straighten my piece of wire with my nylon jaw pliers. And this is my first time going live on YouTube, so I am going to be and I haven't been on YouTube in a really, really long time. I kind of let it go, and I want to get back into it because I really do enjoy it. And then I also live stream on TikTok under JLC Jewelry and Crystals if you ever want to join me on TikTok. Oh, we do have some people here. Welcome. And I have no idea how to see the chat. Let me see. This is my first time, so I'm trying to figure this out. But I'm just straightening some wire. And then I'm just going to measure it against this piece right here. So I'm going to do at least 4 pieces. I might have to do a 5th piece. I'm not sure. But I have a certain design that I want to do with this one. And this is kind of an odd shaped stone. And so I'm really excited to do this. And of course, I'll put a picture of it up, the finished piece, as the thumbnail. But I hope y'all can see okay. Excuse my swollen hands. I do have psoriatic arthritis, which causes my hands to swell constantly. And it's just something I fight with all the time. So I'm okay. I do fight with that though. And so I'm going to get one more piece of wire, and then I'm going to put them together and kind of measure them and see how many pieces of wire I really need. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But I was doing tutorials on here up until last year, and then I just stopped when I had a bunch of dental work done. I got out of the habit of it, and I was also I started doing TikTok. So, and I have just this little bowl here for any scrap wire that will end up going into the trash. But I'm just going to kind of measure this on the side and see if I think it's enough wire, if I need to add a piece. And this is in the square wire. I like how it lines up. So I think that's going to work. So I'm going to get rid of my ruler. And I'm going to get some half round. So I'm just going to take a nice little length of that because I'm going to need this for the sides as well. And then, of course, I'll use it on the bail. I'll do a fairly simple bail. That's just my preference, is to do a simple bail rather than a woven bail. I've done both, but this is my preference. But I'm going to end up needing to make this into a point. So I'm going to actually wrap more. And I'm trying to decide which way I want to orient my stones. Let me look at it that way and look at it this way and see which way that I get more color. So, and I'm not sure how this live chat works. I think I'm going to orient it like this. But I'm trying to see. It should have live chat. I just don't know how it works. But anyway, I figured this would be a good way to get a little tutorial in. And if I make a mistake, you'll see it. So I'm just going to wrap this with the flat side down. And I don't want to make this too tight, but I want it to be tight enough that my wires are going to lay flat. So I'm going to get my flat nose pliers, and I'll link all my tools in the description. It may take me a couple days to do that, but I'm just pressing this out to kind of get an idea of how much wire and how tight to do it, because you want it to be snug, but you don't want it to make your wires cross. And I'm going to let this curved part right here be the inside. And I'm just going to continue to wrap this around. And I'm going to do quite a few wraps since this is going to be in a point. And actually, marquee shape pieces are my favorite shape to wrap. I really love marquee shapes. And I'm hoping to do a double pendant for my mom for her birthday. A double with 2 stones, 2 opals. If I can figure out how to do that. Which I did watch a tutorial, so I do have a pretty good idea. But I'm excited about doing that. And I've picked out the opals that I'm going to use. So hopefully I'll have a tutorial of that. And I don't like the way this wire is laying, so I'm actually going to take that off and start that part over, because I want the wire to lay right. So I'm just going to get another piece of half round. And in the tutorials, you never see the mistakes. And I think it's important to see mistakes that people make. I think that's very important, because that shows you what, that shows you, that nobody's perfect and it's okay to make mistakes. And I do show that on TikTok. I've gone through several frames. But I think it's important for you to see that even experienced people aren't perfect. I'm trying to press this out. I'm thinking I have it too tight. So let me unwrap that and cut that little piece off, and then I'll use the rest of that piece for this. And I haven't wrapped a stone in a while. I've kind of been taking a little break, so I'm a little rusty too. But I wanted to get these made before I go on vacation. So I'm just going to make sure my flat side is down, my round side is up. And hopefully this time I'll get it wrapped right. I like to wrap it around a couple times and then press it with these. And I like to use the Xeron flat nose pliers for that. And like that. And that seems to be laying better. And let's see. I'm not sure which side I want to make the inside, to be honest with you. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to pick the nicer side. But I'm just rolling my piece around and guiding it with my thumb. Excuse my orange nail. It's been growing out forever. But I put some vitamin I had a hangnail a while back, and I put some vitamin C and E treatment on it, and it stained my nail. So nothing wrong with it, it's just stained. But I've had many people ask me about that, even including doctors, and they're like, "What'd you do to your thumb?" So, anyway, but if anybody has any questions at any time, put those in the comments, and I will definitely I try to respond to every comment that I get. It may take me a little while to respond to comments, but I do always try to do that. So let me see how many of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to do a few more wraps because I want that V to be real nice. So, and I'm going to wrap this some on the side as well. And I think I'm going to, let's see if I can go around one more time. Just go ahead and use up this wire. Because I wanted to have, I found that, and I want to try to hopefully have enough, I want to have even number of wraps. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Actually, you want to have around an even number of wraps. You can do an odd number, it doesn't matter really. But you would just want to make sure, I like to do an even number if I can. So, hold on. I'm trying to count these again, make sure I counted right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I think I'm good. I did about 9 or 10 wraps, but I'll be able to, I'm going to trim this on the inside. And you want to always put your finger over the wire that you're trimming, because otherwise it can fly. It could hit your eye. I've had wire come close to my eye before. I sometimes wear safety glasses when I'm working with wire, and I highly recommend it. I just don't always do it, but I have them if I need them. And then I'm just kind of pinching the wires together just to straighten them up. And then let me get my other pliers. These are Xeron. These are needle nose pliers. And I'm just going to the middle of this, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a bend right in the middle, right there. And actually, I'm counting the wraps again. There's 8 wraps. So I want to have 4 on each side. So I want to go ahead and bend that like that. And then I'll pinch these 4 together over here. And I'll pinch these 4 together over here. And then as I bend it in, I am going to press these wires together a little bit to give me a little bit better V. And then I'm going to go ahead and wrap the sides. So I'm going to take some more half round. And on really tiny stones, I don't wrap the sides because there's just not room. But on bigger stones, I like to wrap the sides because I feel like I get, it's more secure. So I'm just going to just straighten this out with my finger. So I'm just going to do about 4 wraps on either side. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'll bend this back here and bring it over with my pliers. And I end up with a pile of pliers over on the side always. It's like very disorganized. If you saw my desk, it's horrible. I need to organize it. I've been organizing closets and organizing my rooms and my office and trying to get things situated where I want them. Whoa, sorry. And I want this to be cut on the inside as well. So I'm just going to trim that right there. And you want, I like the wire end to come on like a little bit kind of close to the middle. Just so I know that it's neat and not going to come through. And that's a little bit too long once I press it down. So I'm just going to lift that up just a little bit. And I'm just going to trim off just a little bit. And there. I try to keep all these wire pieces off the floor because I go barefoot all the time. My dog comes in here. So I have 4 wraps on that side. So you can see how I have the V down here. And I may make it a little bit pointier. I'm not sure. It just depends on how it wraps and forms around the stone. And I plan on doing live streams. I want to start doing these pretty often. I'm trying to get my watch hours up because I would love to be monetized. And that would be really awesome. And I can tell which wires I should have made it done a little different, but it's okay. I always make sure I add extra wire, so I have plenty for the design. And also sometimes it actually is beneficial to have one side longer than the other for when I'm separating my wires. I'm not sure if I'm liking how this is wrapping. We'll see in a second. Let's see. That's 3 wraps around, and then I need to wrap this around one time and bring that around to the back and trim these wires. Sorry, I just hit the camera. I'm doing this on my phone because it's easier than a camera, regular camera. But I do hope to do these live streams more often and hopefully build an audience. But I know I've been getting a lot of views on some of my videos recently, and I have a whole tools video if anybody's interested in that. And it goes through all the tools that I have and that I use and that I love. And I demonstrate a lot of them. But I'm going to pinch this together on the inside and then on the outside as well. And if you want me to make you a custom piece of jewelry, feel free to contact me. And I'd be happy to make a piece for you. I have lots of stones, lots of beads. And I do men's jewelry, I do women's. I do all sorts of jewelry. I'm just getting some water. And now I may have to move these wraps down a little bit. I'm not sure. So I'm just going to go ahead and start forming this around my stone. So I want it, and this is an odd shaped stone. So it's a little, I'm going to open this back up and try to get that point, that little V right down in there. And I'm going to wrap this around on either side. Sometimes I find it easier to lay it on the table. And then I try to hold the stone in place. I usually put my index finger here and my thumb and middle finger on each side to hold the stone together. Then I bring these pieces together like that. And I'm just making sure it all is sitting in there. And then I like to do a nice bend to get the wires like that. Now, when you do 4 wires, you're more than likely gonna, you can end up crossing the wires. So what I like to do to help prevent that for when I'm doing the bail is I like to slide these little wraps up like that. And that kind of helps prevent that. And then I slide it back down. But I'm going to take a nice long piece of half round now for my bail. I wanted to use 18 gauge for the bail, but I don't know where my 18 gauge half round is. I couldn't find it. It's somewhere around here. But the 21 works. And I'm going to the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping around here, and I'm going to leave myself a little tail to wrap with. So, and this doesn't have to be real neat right here, because at the end, the way I connect the bail, I undo this. So I'm just going to wrap this around like that a few times. And then I'm just going to kind of tuck that wire. Now I'm going to separate my wires out. And with them one side being longer than the other, it actually works well because I can tell which wire is which. But then I like to turn it to the side and separate my wires out. So I'm going to take that backmost wire and then bend the 3 frontmost wires forward just to get them out of my way. And there. So now I'm going to bring these wires together right here. And I'm just going to continue to wrap until I get my bail to the length I want it. And this will be going on the beaded chain. And I'll show you how I do that. I did the beaded part, the majority of the beaded part, but I wanted to show you all how I do like the clasp and everything for these. And so now you just twist the pendant. You just twist your frame. And that's the best way. And then you guide it really close with your thumb to try to, you don't want your wire to flip. If the wire flips, you usually have to, I usually have found that I have to get a new piece and redo that. I keep catching my little bowl with the frame. But y'all should come join me on TikTok at JLC Jewelry and Crystals. I sell crystals as well. I have videos up of all the crystals that I have for sale. I need to update those because I have sold some since. But I do sometimes, I have done some live crystal sales on TikTok as well. And I really enjoy doing those. But I try to keep a good variety of stones for pendants and lots of beads. And I'm always adding to all that. And I had a friend that went to India, and he got me a lot of beautiful stones. And I took a loan out from my mom and invested a good bit of money into my business, into stones for pendants, and it's really paid off. So I'm going to go down here and start pressing this out a little bit, just to make sure everything's looking right. And then at the end, I'm going to press it out. I'm not going to go much further on this bail because I don't want it to be too long. Since it is going on a necklace, I just need it to be long enough. And some people request short bails, some don't care. But I try to balance it out with the stone if I'm doing just a regular pendant. But since this one's going on a chain, I want it to be a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to stop there, and I'm just going to trim this little piece off. And this is long enough that I'm just going to save it in my little container. And I can use it later for like wrapping something. I try not to waste any more wire than I have to. But I just want to make sure this is in the back, because these wires can twist as you're wrapping them. And I just want to make sure that little piece isn't coming, it's coming over a little bit too far. I don't want anybody to get poked with that. So I'm just going to lift that up a little bit, and I'm just going to trim just a little bit off. There. And now I'm going to press that back down. And I'm just going to go over this whole thing now and make sure it's all pressed nice and flat. And that just gives it a nice finished look. And now to make the bail, you can use bail making pliers, you can use a pencil or pen, or I've gotten to where I just eyeball it and I bend it over my finger like this. And I just press it in like that. And then I like to then I'll pull it out just a little bit. And I'm going to take this piece right here and I'm going to unwrap it. Let me get I use bent nose pliers. I use bent nose pliers a lot for stuff like this. That's actually one of my favorite tools, are my bent nose pliers. And I love the ones from Xeron because they're really fine tipped. And you can really get into the different areas that you need to get into. But I'm just unwrapping this, kind of straightening it out with my fingers as I go. I'll probably take my wire straightener over that. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that. And that'll just make it look a little neater. So I'm just going to do that. And now to connect the bail, I'm just bringing it around. I'm bringing this piece of wire around. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of pinch these two together. And I'm going to just wrap this a few times. And I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to now take this little tail that I have and I'm going to bring it into the middle. Like that. And then I just pull up on it and that kind of pulls these wraps up right there. And then I'm going to trim that little tail off, and so that's hidden down in my frame. And I hope this design that I have in mind works really well for this piece. And so now I'm just going to make sure that's pressed down really well in there, like that. And then for the back, what I like to do to finish off the bail is I just trim these wires right here, trim them kind of short. And then I'm going to take my Lindstrom fine tipped round nose pliers. You can use any round nose pliers, but these are my favorite ones that I use. And all I do is I just make a little loop. I just grab it and I just turn it in. So there's a little loop right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Try to grab it in about the same place on the pliers. Just going to see. And tomorrow, Sunday, since today, what's today? Today is the 23rd. Sunday, tomorrow, the 24th, I'm going to be on TikTok doing live streams at some point if you want to join me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these wraps down to the center. And I'm going to go ahead and put my stone in. So to do this, you can put it in either from the front or the back. Sometimes one way is easier than the other. And it just varies. But I like to have my stone, to make sure it's very secure. You definitely don't want them falling out. But you can see how it fits perfectly in that frame. And so now what I'm doing, I'm going to hold that stone in place. And I'm just going to take my nail and just lift this backmost wire right here. Just lift it up a little bit to where I can get my pliers in there. Now on the front, I use my nails typically to bend the wire because I don't want to damage it. If you mar your wire a little bit on the back, you can take like a little file and you can smooth that out. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side right here. I hope you can see what I'm doing. And so I'm just going to kind of pinch those a little bit together like that. And now I'm going to come to the front and I'm just going to make sure my wraps are try to make them as even as I can get them. And this just gives us something to lay on while I work on this. And then I will bend these wires back on the upper part as well. So I'm just pressing this stone down in here. Trying to get this really snug in there. Sometimes I have to work with it a second if the frame's pretty, if it's like a really good fitting frame. There. I just wanted to get those wires pulled up around the sides. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, oh, let me double check my wraps, make sure they're in about the same place on either side. And I'm going to take this wire right here, this frontmost wire, and I'm going to bring it up with my nail. And I recommend, I take biotin to make sure my nails stay pretty strong. And then I'm just going to leave, on some pieces, I'll actually pull these together. And I'm going to have to end up bending that wire in better in the back. But I'm just going to do the same thing on this side. And just bending it up. Bending it over the stone. Because you just don't want your stone to slip out. And I'm going to adjust these wires right here as well. So I don't want to cover up my stone too much. And then the wraps, sometimes they'll slide up, might slide up a little bit. And you just want to try to move those so they're even on either side. And then for this backmost part, to finish the back part of the frame, I'm just going to pull that wire in a little bit and make sure these are popped up over the side real good. And I'm just going to bend that in. And I'm getting a hand cramp. Hold on. I do that. I get hand cramps really bad sometimes. And then I'm just going to take this backmost wire and pull it in. And I'm just bending it in with my bent nose pliers. And then I'm going to pull that in. And then to finish out securing this stone, I'm going to take this front piece right here. And I'm just going to bring it up right here like this. And then I'm going to take this side. I'm just going to double check those wraps before I do this. And then I'm going to pull this piece over as well. And this is really hard on your nails. Always keep a glass nail file nearby because it will tear up your nails doing this. But I'm just pinching that together at the top. I just find that gives me a little bit more security. And man, my nails are weak. This wire is really, oh man, it's tough. It's a really good fit. I'm just going to try to bring this up a little bit more. And I think I am going to use my pliers. I just got to be really careful not to mar the wire. I just want to bring that up just a little bit more. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I just don't want my pliers to slip because that's when you'll bend, that's when you'll scratch your wire up. And I'm going to do that up here. And then I'm going to do that here. And let's see. I'm going to separate my sides out here now. And I'm just going to go ahead and do a gentle tug on each wire. And it will just make sure the frame is nice and snug all around. And you don't have to do this, but I just like to. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. And then sometimes I do have to pull in the wires after I do that. It just tightens everything up though. And I'll bend that forward, bend that together. But, so there we go. Our stone is in. It's not coming, well, if you push it real hard, it'll come out. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm going to actually secure these a little bit more. by bringing that in and bring that in. And I'm going to actually press that down on the stone. I probably could have used an extra piece of wire, but I think the 4 will work fine though. And let me bring that in. And then I'm going to press that down, and that'll help give it a little extra security. But yeah, if somebody comes and shoves it from the back, it's going to pop. They can pop out. I need to smooth my nail out. Hold on just a second. Okay. I just had to get that rough edge off. Okay. So now I'm going to do my design. And for women's pieces, I always do a rose. Or I usually do a rose on a woman's piece. But for men's, I don't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 3 wires and I'm going to bring them down like this. And I'm going to bring it around the back. I'm just trying to get them bent the way that I want them. I'm going to bring these down. And then I'm going to bring these around the back like that. And I'm going to fold them in. And then I'm going to trim them. I'm going to trim them all at one time. And I'm going to trim them down here about, give myself some length. And if I need to trim it more, I can. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn these pieces right here with my fine tipped round nose pliers. I'm grabbing it at the very, very edge of the wire, very end of the wire. And I'm just going to, and if it doesn't turn out to be a perfect circle, that's an easy fix. And if it doesn't, I'll show you that easy fix. But I really love these. These are I have regular round nose pliers, but I absolutely love these because they're great for fine detail. So I'm just twisting that around like that. And then I'm going to twist the one on this left side around. Let's see. Separate that out just a little bit. And I'm just grabbing it in the tip. And I'm actually making it a little bigger than I do sometimes because I wanted it to be a little bit different on this piece. And then this middle one, I'm going to try to do a real small loop if I can. And that didn't turn out to be real round on that one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to barely trim a little tiny bit of this inside of, I'm sorry, I was out from the frame. I'm just going to take this and just trim a tiny, tiny piece out. Whoa. And that was just a tiny, tiny piece. And it already has that loop in it. So I'm just going to bring it on around. And then to make it look more straight, I'm just going to do a backwards bend on that. And then I need to get some 28 gauge wire. I'm going to go ahead and fix these into place. Set these where I want them. And you could use half round to do this, but I don't really want the wire to be seen that much. So I'm going to use some 28 gauge. And then, let's see. I'm just going to kind of press this down here and pull this in and press it there. And I'm just going to slip this up under the frame and under these wires right here. And I'm going to lift my frame up just a little bit so I can get that under there. I don't need to lift it up much, but I just need to just bring it up just a tiny bit, just enough to get this under there. And I may need to lift it a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. It lifted that time. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to pull these pieces in as far as I can. And I'm going to slide it under these wraps, under there. I'm sorry, under this piece that's coming around, and slide it up under the frame. And then I'm just going to bring it to where it's centered, the wire is centered. And I'm going to use my bent nose pliers and just going to kind of do a kind of a sewing motion. And I'm going to bring it up under, I want to bring this frame up on the sides a little bit better first before I do that. I want these two side wires to be up on here. Okay. So now I'm just going to go ahead and figure out where I was now. Sorry. I got distracted a second. And I'm just going to bring this around. I haven't done this in a while. I'm a little rusty. And so I'm just going to bring this around here and bring it up under the frame and under these three wires. And then I'm just going to pull it out. It's just like you're sewing basically. And I do that on either side. And that'll secure this piece and keep these little pieces from moving. And the 28 gauge doesn't really add anything to the design. You can't see it very much. But it just makes it stable, makes it stay where it's supposed to stay at. And these little wraps will also help, where I've wrapped this around, will also help hold the stone in place, which is another benefit. So I'm just taking this underneath here. And then I'm going to take it in. And let's see. I got to straighten that out a little bit with my fingers. Make it a little easier to work with. And I'm just going to take it under the three wires and under the frame. And then I'm just going to pull that. So I'm actually going to wrap it one more time, I think, on each side, because I don't want these pieces moving at all. So I'm just taking this under the frame and under these three wires. And if it gets hard to do, because this is it's so thin, it bends real easy, I like to straighten it out with my fingers. But I'm just going to bring that around here. And then I'm just going to pull it. And I'm going to do the same thing here that I did before. And I'm just going to slide it up there, slide it up under the frame. And I'm just going to pull. And now I'm going to trim these wires. And you want to make sure you just trim this wire. I have trimmed other extra wires before, and that really sucks because then you got to start over. So I'm just going to try to get in there as close as I can get and just get that wire off. And now I'm going to take this little piece right here and I'm just going to pull it around and let me trim it just a little shorter, actually. I don't want that end to be visible, but I'm just going to press that in like this. Let me see. These little, when it's like real little short pieces of wire, they're real hard to get a hold of. So I'm just pressing that in like that, and it feels smooth. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this piece. And we'll try to trim it as close to the frame as I can get. I'm going to move these out of the way just a little bit. There. And so I just trim that little piece out. And then I see the little tail right there, so I'm just going to end up folding it around. And there. And I'm just feeling this to make sure it feels smooth. And I'm going to go ahead and press these little loops down. And just make them form to the stone. And I'm just going to kind of press that in and press it down. There we go. And I see a little tail right there. Let me just trim that little piece off, because I don't want anybody to get scratched. I would feel so bad if somebody got hurt by my jewelry. So I'm like very, very careful to make sure nothing is sharp. And now these other 3 wires, I'm going to do kind of the same thing that I did on here, except I'm going to bring it around. I'm going to bring it as close to the bail as I can get it. And I'm just going to cross it in the back like this. And I'm going to bring them around. Let me bring it down a little further. And then I'm going to bring it up right here. And I'm going to trim these off and give myself enough room to do some loops. And I'm going to do the same thing I did up here. I'm going to do down here. And I wanted to press that wire right there back down. And I see a little tail of wire I'm going to need to tuck in right there. So I can just bring that up and press it down. And now I'm going to try to do my loops the same size as what I just did up there. So I did that. And you can actually do finer loops than that with these pliers, but I wanted to give it a little different look than that. So I'm just grabbing the tip of this, and I'm just going to bring that around. And now I'm going to take this middle piece, and I'm going to turn it, let's see, I'm going to take it to the left. And I'm going to try to do it fairly small. And this is kind of a little filigree type look. And then I'm going to do a little backwards bend on that, just to make it look straight. So I just do a little backwards bend like that. And I want to make sure these are all pressed down smooth. Yeah. Make sure they're flush with the wire that it's matching up to. And so I'm just going to bring this around like that. So this is what it's looking like so far. I'm going to take another piece of 28 gauge and trim that. And I don't like the way this middle one is looking, so I'm going to actually trim some of that off. I want it to be just a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to trim a little bit of that loop off. Let's see. I'm trim a good bit of it off, actually, because I just want it to be a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to take this. Let me trim that. I trim a little tiny piece right there. Okay, there. Now I'm just gonna press these wires in so I can kind of do this better. It kind of gives me a little bit more room to work with. And I may have to shorten these other two to match the other, but that's not a big deal. So I'm just going to try to take a tiny loop, and then I'm going to do a backwards bend. And I'm going to shorten these just a little bit. So I'm just going to cut these a little bit. And I'm going to cut this one. I just want them to be matched up a little bit better. And I don't know if you all are commenting or not, but I'm not seeing any comments, so I don't know how this is my first time ever going live. So I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Well, first time going live on YouTube. I go live on TikTok pretty frequently. And then I'm going to bring this one around to get that look that I want. And you can do this with 2 pieces of wire on either side, or just, however many you have. And I'm just going to stick my pliers in there and give that a little backwards bend there. And I'm just going to kind of bend the wire where I want it. So this is how it's looking now. And I'm going to lift up, I have a pile of tools over here. I'm just going to lift up my frame by sliding my bent nose pliers up under here. That's the easiest way to lift up a frame. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. Got it under there. If you don't lift up the frame, it's nearly impossible to get this wire to go up under it. So I'm going to slide this under the 3 pieces of wire and the frame, just like I did on the other side. Wow, I can't believe I've been on here almost an hour. Luckily, most of the beaded chain is done, so I can show you all how I finished that off. So now I'm going to bring this around and bring it through right there. And I'm just going to go ahead, since I did the other one twice on either side, I'm going to just go ahead and do that. And just bringing that again. And this just makes it secure. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. And just bring it under the 3 wires and the frame. And just pull it. I've done whole pendants where I had to basically sew it. I've had to sew the back down and stuff. So I've gotten pretty good at doing that. I've had a lot of practice. So then I just bring that around and pull it tight. And I'm just going to trim these little pieces of wire as close as I can get them without trimming the wrong thing. And sometimes it helps to lift it. There. And so now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to trim this. And I'm just going to make sure these little ends are pressed in so they won't come loose and they won't scratch. There. And I'm just feeling it, make sure there's no rough edges. So there's the finished pendant. Now I'm going to finish it on, I'm going to put it on the beaded chain. And I've already done a good majority of the chain. And I used my 1-step loopers. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my 18 gauge silver wire. And I'm going to take a nice length. And I always run my nylon draw pliers over it before I cut it. And I'm going to be using my 1-step loopers for this. But I'm doing a 24-inch chain. Sorry, I need a drink break. Okay. I drink lots of water when I do this stuff. So now what I'm going to do is I'm using the 3mm one-step looper tool. And I do this for bigger pieces, but I'm just going to go ahead and put this wire in here, and I'm putting it a little bit through that hole that's in the side. And I'm just going to go ahead and get my loop and grab some different pliers now. I like using these short nose pliers and the chisel nose pliers for putting bracelets and necklaces together, because I find it makes it a little bit easier to work with. And so now I'm going to slide my beads on. I'm using 6mm round, and then I'm also using 10mm. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this one on this side. So I'm going to do 6, 10, and 6 on each side, just like these links are. And this is like a link, but it's connected together, and this is what I'm going to slide my pendant onto. So I'm just going to slide that down like that. Now I'm going to take my pendant and I'm going to slide it on there. And let me make sure these pieces, I didn't press that piece down there. Let me do that. Sorry, I'm always messing with my pieces and making sure everything's right. There's a gnat in here that's bugging me. We get lots of gnats in Georgia. So I'm going to actually, because I don't want to take any chances of a bead possibly going through the bail, and I'm just going to go ahead and close that bail down a little bit. That way I don't have to worry about a bead slipping through there, but it doesn't affect the look. And then I'm going to do my 6, 10, 6 on this side. So I'm just going to slide those on there. And these are like a Mystic Aura quartz or something. They're basically synthetic rainbow moonstone, and they actually are prettier than the regular rainbow moonstone beads that I got, because they just weren't good beads. They were white and they have black pieces in them, and I wasn't happy with them. So that's why I got these, because I figured they would go with this real well. And so now I'm going to take my one-step looper, and I'm going to slide this through here and slide this through this little hole that's on the side. So I'm going to slide it through there and put it through that little hole. And I'm going to bring it all the way into my beads. And I want to make sure this is all as close as can be, because I don't want any room in there. So I'm just going to, this is awkward to do on camera. So I'm just going to bring that, and I'm just going to close that. And sometimes it doesn't close quite all the way. So what I like to do is I like to press it down flat. And I actually like to bring my wire in like this and then pinch it together. And I find it misshapes it a little less. So there we go. And then I just bend this wire up like that. And now I'm going to bend these wires so they're forward. And I'm going to go ahead and attach my chain on either side. And I'm going to, whoa, it wanted to fly out of my hands. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and bend this out. And I just bend it a little bit. And I find with these short nose pliers, I have a lot better control to do this than with the long nose. And so now I'm just going to do what I did before and bring that in and then press it together. And that's on there. And I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. This piece is going to be really stunning, I think. I love these beads. I think they're so pretty. So Let me see. I just want to press this flat here. And I'm going to bring this in. And just make sure that's pressed down nicely. And press flat. I'm going to go ahead and measure this. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 10 on either side, and I may end up having to redo, depending on, I'm doing 24 inches for the chain. So let me just go ahead and get a measurement here. Okay. Okay, I'm going to have to redo these end ones too, because I have, it's going to be too long otherwise. So that won't take but a moment. So I'm going to actually, let me get these off of here, because I need to do the finishing piece for the ends. And I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take these, just go ahead and cut this and take these beads off. And I'll show you how I do the hook and closure part. So I'm just going to take that off, that one side. And let's see, same thing over here. I'm just going to go ahead and take this off and slide it around. But I decided I wanted to start doing the live streams because I wanted to show the full process without all the editing and the cuts in it. That way you can see mistakes and see that if you make a mistake, you're not alone. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my one-step looper, and the looper will leave like a little bit of a curvature on the side that you cut before. Let's see if you can see how it's a bit like curved a little bit. So what I like to do is I like to put that piece in here and get that cut off. And I kind of put this in the middle. You don't have to put it all the way through the hole. Sometimes it doesn't cut right, but oops, let me cut that off. But I like to minimize the wastage of wire as much as I can. But I'm just bringing that around just like that. And that's just on the one side. The other side is going to be different because I'm going to put a hook closure on one, and I'm going to put a hook on one, and then I'm going to do a ring on the other for the hook to go into. So I'm just going to take my beads, and that one has a little crack in it, so let me throw that away. Every now and then you'll get a bead that has like a little crack or something, and you just throw those away. So I'm doing my 6 millimeter, my 10 millimeter, and my 6 millimeter. And I'm going to trim this and give myself some length here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wrapped loop. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and bend this like that. And I'm going to take my bell making pliers, and this is the side that I'm going to put the hook on. So I'm going to use the second step up. I'm just going to use that to bring it around, and this just gives added strength. Ow, just pinched myself. And I'm going to grab my bent nose pliers, and I'm going to pull this on around. And I'm just going to wrap it a couple times. And then I'm going to trim that off. And I'm going to leave, oops, I'm making a mess here. I've got too many pliers out. I've got I've got bowls on my table. I've got jewelry on my table. I've got so much stuff here. I have a bunch of wire. But I'm going to go ahead and trim this really short. And what I like to do to finish off a piece like this is I like to use it's an electric bead reamer, and it has a little wire rounder tip. So I'm just going to go ahead and smooth this little tip out like that. And that does sometimes make the beads and stuff hot. But it just gives it a nice rounded finish and smooth finish. So I'm going to take my pliers and I'm just going to kind of push this around here and press it in. Press it till it's flat. There. And I need to put some tools back, but I'm just straightening this out. And I like to put the hook, because this is the side the hook's going to go on. So I'm going to put it on what will be the right-hand side. And then I always do the part the hook goes into on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to open up this loop right here. And I'm going to slide, let's see. I want it to be, I'll slide it on like that. And I'm just going to press that down. And then I'm going to bring that, I need to press it a little bit flatter. It's not real flat. And then I'm going to bring this in and press it together. And just close that loop up all the way. For some reason, I'm having trouble doing it. But I'm just going to press that in a little bit better. I just want to make sure it's completely closed. And it is. Okay, it's closed. And now I'm going to do the other side, and then I'll make the hook, and it will be finished. So I'm just going to take this piece of wire here. I'm going to go ahead and make a loop on one side. I'm just going to press that down flat and make sure it's closed all the way. And then I'm going to put my beads on. Sorry if I get out of frame. I'm new to this. I'm new to filming. And then I'm just going to take this right here and put the 6mm, the 10mm, and the 6mm. And then I'm going to trim this wire a little shorter because I'm going to do a wrapped loop on there as well. And I'm going to take my bail making pliers. Well, let me bend this first. Hold on. I like to bend my wire before I wrap it. I'm going to take my bail making pliers and I'm going to go on this third step up. And that should give me plenty of room to, I hope I didn't cut that too short. I think it's just barely long enough. But this will give me something to put the hook into to close it off. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this around. And after I get back from my Colorado trip, I do plan on, I'm going to have to do this one again. I didn't leave myself enough wire, so let me just redo that. Whenever I do undo a link, I always put the beads back in the proper place. Okay, I'm going to take another piece of 18 gauge silver, straighten it out. I'm going to put some of these tools up because I've got too many out. Let's see. Well, I need the rest of these, so. Okay. So I'm just going to straighten that out and cut a nice length of that, and then I can use this for the closure as well. And then let me put these round nose pliers up. Just get a few things out of the way here. I'm just gonna go ahead and do a loop here. And that one closed nicely, but I still always like to press them like that, just to make sure it's flush with the wire. And then I'm going to do the 6mm, 10mm, 6mm, like that. And now I'm going to cut this longer than I did last time because I need to have it a little bit longer. And if it's too long, it's no big deal. I can always cut some off. I'd rather have too much than not enough. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get a bend in my wire. Just a little bend. I'm going to take my looper tool. Again, on the third step up. And I'm just going to place it right there in that little crook. And bring this around. And I'm going to grab my bent nose pliers because I like those for this. And hang on just a second. I'm going to redo that part. It's too high up. So I'm just going to press this wire. I'm just going to flatten this wire out. And straighten it out. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and bend this. I'm going to bend it a little closer in than I had it. I think the beads were up too high or something. I don't know. I'm just going to place that there on the third step up. And I'm going to bring it around and grab my bent nose pliers. And I'm going to wrap this around here. And I'm going to wrap it around a couple times. And this just gives a little extra strength and support to it. And I'm going to make sure that loop, I want to make it a little rounder. Let's try to round that out a little bit. And now I'm going to cut this short, just like I did on the other side. Bleed just a tiny bit. And then I'm just going to round this out. And it doesn't take long to round it. I just get it till it's smooth. And that feels good. So now I'm just going to press this down. And press it around. until it's flat and flush with this. And now I'm going to grab a couple sets of pliers. I'm just going to take it and I'm just going to twist so everything is on the same side. And now I'm going to attach this on the left side. So I'm just going to open up this little loop right here. And then I'm going to attach this. And this will end up being a little more than 24 inches, but that's okay. Because this guy likes them to be long. He always tells me, he's like, I want it long. He's like, I have a big head. So, but I've gotten to be friends with him. He's a good client, and he's a really nice person. And I was really excited when he asked me to do the beaded necklaces, because I'd wanted to do it for a long time, but I just never had anybody ask. So I've got that closed up, and I've got both ends. Now I'm going to make my hook closure. There's my piece of wire. And to make the hook closure, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and round out this end. Just want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Like that. And I just feel it, and I feel it. And you can kind of press the wire to wherever it feels rough. And press that around the edge. And that feels better. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to take it in the very tip of my pliers, and I'm just going to do a little turn up with this. Oh great, my dad turned the football game on. I was hoping the football game would be done in the afternoon, because I hate the noise from it. But my dad's a big football fan. I always root the Georgia Bulldogs on, but I like to know that they win. I just don't like to watch the games. So I'm just trying to bring this in. I'm having trouble here. Hang on. I was having trouble getting a hold of it. What in the world? I'm going ahead and press that. Try to press that in now. Actually, let me bend it up. I don't know why I can't get a hold of it. Of course, I would have trouble when I'm doing this live. So let me just bring that around. Okay, there, I got it to where it's like a little loop. And then I'm going to press it. You don't want to press this in too much, because it could make it go over the wire, and you don't want to do that. But I just go way down on the jaws of my plier, and I just take my time with it, with working it together. If y'all have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. If you'd like me to make a custom piece of jewelry for you, I'd be happy to. I do a lot of wire weaving, and I make rings and bracelets, and I do it all. And I really enjoy it. It's been a really good, making jewelry has been a really good creative outlet for me. So I'm just pressing that down so I have that little flat part right there. And I like to get it as flat as I can without making that wire cross. So that's about as flat as I can get it right there. I don't know if you can see that. And then I'm going to take my bail making pliers, and I'm going to take it on this third step up. And I'm just going to take this. I'm not making a real big hook closure. I'm just doing a small one. I'm just going to bend this around like that. And now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to trim this about right there. And I can save that piece of wire. I have a little container that I put my wire in. Anything that's usable. And I'm going to take my round nose pliers and I'm going to go ahead and make a loop and bring it up until it meets up right there. And then I'm just going to press that down flat. And I'm going to press this wire. I'm going to press the hook in. And I'm going to just press it down with my nylon jaw pliers, just to make sure it's nice and flat. And then I'm just going to open this little loop right here. Right there. And I'm going to put it on the right side on that little bit smaller loop, wrapped loop that I did. So I'm just going to place it right there. And I'm just going to press it down like that. And all I have to do now is hook this together. And there's your finished piece. So you've got the hook closure here. And actually, the way I'm looking at this, I want to rotate this so that's sitting up a little bit better. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Rotate it a little bit. Okay. There, that's better. So there's that, and then here's the pendant part. So anyway, thank you all for joining me, and anybody watching this afterwards, I will end up putting a picture up of this finished piece, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and watch for more live streams in the future. I'm happy to do it. So anyway, have a wonderful day, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.